You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBTSongs or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? This week on the podcast, I've got Scott Stepakoff, and we're here at Smack Publishing right off of Music Row. I've known these guys for a long time and just love everything that they've done here at Smack. So thanks again to be a part of this with Smack. This week with Scott, we're going to dive into some songs that he's written for Kelsey Hart, Blake Shelton, Tim McGraw, and just it's an awesome story. He actually started his career in production and talks about some of the shows that I know you've seen on TV. And then the story of how he got to Nashville and fell into songwriting and the success that he's had since then, including the debut single that Kip Moore put out. We'll talk about all of that. It was such a great episode. Let's get to it. Here is Scott Stepakoff. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Chris Blair, and we've got Scott Stepakoff in the house. We're here at Smack Publishing. How you doing, brother?
Doing great. How about you? Glad to be here.
I'm so glad that you walked in today. You didn't even know really what you were doing.
It's true. I hate to admit it. No, I didn't know a whole lot about what we were getting into today, but
show up.
I'm excited
answer
to be
questions.
Here.
Talk about yourself.
I've done it before. I enjoy it. Who doesn't enjoy talking about this?
That's right. Well, man, I've been really excited about this one. You've got some amazing songs that you've written, and I mean, I want to dive in like Tim McGraw, Blake Shelton, Kelsey. I mean, just there's so much that you've accomplished, and I know like this is also a great home to be a part of. So I want to kind of try to cover all of that.
Sure.
But let's just go like How did you get into songwriting in the first place? Like walk through like your childhood passion of music and all that.
Well, it's kind of funny. Like I didn't grow up in a family that was very musical at all.
Really?
So like part of me doesn't really know like how I got the bug, like I just remember like as far back as when I was like, probably 8 or 9 or 10, like I used to walk around with like, this will tell you how old I am, but I used to walk around with a little like analog cassette recorder, those like mini cassette things. Walking around singing like songs into it, and like not songs that I wrote, but just like I don't know. I seem to remember me singing like, "I'd like to teach the world to drink, perfect harmony."
Yeah.
I'd like to teach the world, like a Coke commercial or something like. And I'm like singing all these silly songs, and then I don't know. Cut to like high school, I was like attracted to singing. Like I don't know where I got the bug, but I was just like before I knew it, I was like singing the songs to like R&B songs in my car, like James Ingram, Jeffrey Osborne and stuff like that. And like as loud as I could. And like I was in high school musicals and I was in like the chorale at high school and stuff. And I played football at the same time. But like, my dad wasn't musical. My mom wasn't musical. So it was just weird that like I realized that I could sing. And even then I was always more of a singer than I was a songwriter. Just songwriting never really occurred to me until after I graduated college. I had learned how to play guitar from a guy in college, like a guy who was in a band, and he was in my fraternity, and he was in a band, and I was like, oh, this would be cool. And he taught me a few chords, and I learned how to play a few things. But like even back then, I didn't feel driven to write songs, and I didn't grow up on country music like a lot of country songwriters. Like I grew up listening to jam band, like hippie bands, and like classic rock and stuff like that. Like
yeah, in Atlanta, right?
In Atlanta, yeah. I grew up in Atlanta, yeah. And it wasn't until after I graduated college and I decided to move out to LA that I met some other people who were musical. And I moved out there to do TV production. That was like, my brother was a TV writer. He was a writer on the Wonder Years at the time.
Oh, yeah, man.
Which, again, will tell you how old I am. We're
probably about the same age.
Yeah, you think?
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not saying how old I am. You got to do the math to figure 49. It out.
Okay.
I've been around a minute.
I win.
You win. You do win. But we're in the same same generation.
Yeah.
But my brother was a TV writer and I had graduated college, and again, music it didn't, for some reason it was just something that I thought was kind of cool, but it just never occurred to me that it was something I could do for a career. It was just like, I grew up in a house where you go to college, you get a job, and, you make a career, and it's like, this is not the kind of career that ever occurred to me. So I was working in TV production, and my brother had introduced me to some people. I got a job working in TV production. I worked on this show called Doogie Howser as a production assistant, and I worked on NYPD Blue and a few other shows. And but it wasn't long before I started making friends with other people who were musicians that I met at parties. And I knew a guy who was in like a cover band, and we used to play together. You know, he used to invite me up on stage to, you know, sing covers with him and stuff. And then people started coming up to me and saying, you know, you're a really good singer, man. Have you ever considered starting your own band? And I was like, I don't think so. But as this happened more and more, and I met this guy actually at a Widespread Panic show who was from Jacksonville, Florida, and we hit it off. We were in line waiting to get into the show, and we just became fast friends. And we decided we were going to like start a band together, and we put an ad looking for, you know, other members and stuff. And I was the lead singer, and, you know, still even then I didn't even like craft of songwriting and like, you know, writing a song that had impactful stories and lyrics. It was just still not part of my world, you know?
Yeah.
But after I graduated from that whole vibe, you know, and my band sort of hit a wall, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want this life. And y'all cut me off if I'm talking too long, by the way.
No,
I'll
good,
go off
man.
all day about but at the end of, my band we were called Turtle Grove, and we were this jam band, and we traveled around like the California coast and stuff like that. And I remember at the end of that, I was thinking I wanted to get a little more commercial. Like I was into Counting Crows, August and Everything After. It was like my favorite record at the time. And Hootie and the Blowfish, Cracked Rear View. And I was like really wanting to kind of emulate some of those like more commercial bands. And the other guys in the band were just sort of like, you know, they just wanted to get, you know, stand on stage and do like 7-minute jams and that kind of stuff. I was like, I want to do something that's a little more, has more commercial potential to it. So, my band started to kind of come to a close, and I started to kind of think I turned 30 at the time, and I was like, not really sure what I wanted to do. And I was like, I don't know if I want the artist life. So I decided to go back to school. So I had one foot in music and the other foot in a master's program in, clinical psychology. Like I decided I wanted to be like a marriage and family therapist, and I was going to treat, as I got through the program, I was like, I think it'd be really great to like work with musicians and like treat bands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I thought that would be like, that was the life I was going to pursue. And I graduated, gathered up my things, moved back to the South because I missed the seasons. And I went and applied to a Georgia School of Professional Psychology to go get a doctorate degree. And I was going to continue all that. And then right as I was about to start this program, I just panicked, and I was like, man, I just don't think I've given music a fair shake. I don't think I've chased the music enough. I did a band and it hit a wall, and I decided that was the end of my music career. And I'm just like, I don't feel like I'm ready to stop there. And, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, we had just met back in 2000 in Atlanta. She really encouraged me. I always tell people, like, my wife was like my biggest believer at the time. And I don't know if I would have been here, sitting here right now, if it hadn't been for my wife saying, you know what? It's not like you have anything holding you back right now. It's like, if you want to pursue your music, maybe you should figure out a way to make that the center of your life.
Wow.
And so I said, you know what? That's a great idea. And I just started diving into music as a solo, not necessarily as an artist, but I just thought, man, maybe I'm going to chase this songwriting thing. And I started listening to country radio, which like I said, I didn't grow up on country radio. Yeah. And I started diving into that and figuring out the songs, and just like, what is it about these songs? You know, it's like, there's stories, you know, there's imagery, there's simplicity, there's things that everybody can attach to. And, this was, you know, early 2000s. And, I was, listening to songs that just really, really spoke to me. And I said, I want to be a part of this. And, I got involved with NSAI, and, I used to go to these regional meetings of NSAI. And I met this guy by the name of Jeff Silver, he had been making trips. I'll never forget. He was like the coordinator of the NSAI meetings that I used to go to. We'd each play songs, and we'd all critique each other's songs. And I asked this guy after one of the meetings, I went up to him and I said, man, your songs sound like, you know, they remind me a lot of the stuff I'm hearing on country radio. And he's like, you know, yeah, well, I make trips up here. Like, once a month for about a week. And I'm like, who did you write this song you played tonight with? Who did you write that with? He goes, this guy named Josh Osborne. And he was like, a young songwriter there. And I mean, again, this was like 2002 or something like that at the time. And he was like, you should meet him. I think you guys would really hit it off. And crazy thing is, he came down to do a round with us one time. And he was writing for a company called Ash Street Music that doesn't even exist anymore. But we hit it off, and we started writing together. And he's one of the first people I ever wrote with. He's, some of y'all probably know Josh. He's kind of crushing it. And I've actually written some of the songs I've had cut with him, but we've been writing for years. But I mean, that experience and meeting, starting to meet publishers and playing in writers rounds and open mics and all that kind of stuff that you do when you first come here, and you learn how to navigate the Nashville community. And I just started kind of, I met, someone like a guy named Chris Oglesby, who was like my first publisher, who really believed in me. And, people started like introducing me to people. And I thought, no, this is really something I want to dive into. And so that's kind of like, I'm sure there's stuff I left out, but that's sort of the quick version of my journey of how I got here, start writing.
I love that, man. I feel like we could have a full episode on just diving behind the stories behind the shows and like production world. That's really cool. All those shows I grew up on, and that's super cool. So you make it to Nashville and you decide, okay, we're going to do this. Then fast forward, walk me through like, what kind of your first big hit was, and take me into the room. Like, how did the idea come about? Like you picked the song.
Well, up until when I'll start with this, cause like, what a lot of people don't realize is I've had a lot of cuts over the years, but I still haven't had like a song go number one.
Right.
Still climbing on, still working towards that and stuff, But there's a kind of a cool story. Like my first, I would say it was probably 5 years after I moved to town. I had met, a guy named Dan Couch, who became a good friend of mine. And he and I met at Chris Oglesby Writer Management, who was, like I said before, my first songwriting mentor. And, he was writing with this guy named Kip Moore.
Yeah. And
some of y'all out there may have heard of Kip. He's gone on to do a lot of really cool things. And, I ended up, writing with him and the two of them one day. And, we wrote a few songs before this one, but I remember, I don't remember exactly who had the idea, but this turned out to be my first major label cut. And I remember thinking there was a song called Mary Was the Marrying Kind. And it was just one of those things that we didn't have an idea. It just sort of came out in the room. And now I always tell this when I tell this story, like when I play this song on stage, because Mary Was the Marrying Kind was my first major label cut. And it was Kip's debut single as an artist too. And there was all of this hoopla around it. And everybody said it was going to be huge. And like, it was one of those things where the label has a show, during CRS week, which is the big radio seminar week they have here in town in March. And they had this big show at the Ryman, and they trot out all their artists and they play their songs. A lot of the new artists would play their songs, and everybody went nuts for this song. It's called Mary Was the Marrying Kind. And I remember the chorus just sort of like fell out. I mean, we were working on verses, and I just remember when we got to the chorus, I just sang these two lines, and it was like, Mary, Mary. Shit, I can't even remember this. It's been a while since I told you. Mary, Mary. What's like this? You could edit this, right?
This is, I mean,
I'll play a little bit of it.
Yeah.
Jenny was the kind you'd call up late for a date on Friday night. Didn't ever matter how much I had to drink, she'd come give me a ride. Becky was a hell-raising, dart-throwing girl who could match me beer for beer. Allie was a singer with stars in her eyes, and Mary was the marrying kind. Oh, Mary, Mary, couldn't see it at the time. Oh, Mary, Mary. could I have been so blind? So that's the chorus I was trying to find.
Yeah.
Get to that. Jump right in there. But anyway, the point I was trying to make with that story was like, the chorus just sort of fell out. We had been working on the verses and the chorus just sort of fell out. And it was about this girl that you was right in front of your face all along. And you were busy dating all these other types of girls and you didn't see it, you know. But the thing about that story that I always tell, and my co-writers, Dan and Kip, actually, they always, especially Dan always says, I don't remember it this way. I don't think that's true, but I swear I remember this. We got together that day to write. And I always intro this when I play the show live. I'll say, how many of y'all know Kip Moore? And people go, lots of people go, yes, of course, love Kip. And I'm like, good. Y'all know the song Something About a Truck? They're like, yeah, because that was Kip's first number one. Well, I didn't write that song. And then everybody goes bananas and starts laughing and stuff. So, and then I say, but I did write this one. And the day we got together to write Mary Was a Marrying Kind, which again, we thought was going to be, it was supposed, everyone was saying it was going to be a huge hit, but then, you know, like as happens very often, it got to like 39 and the label decided they had to go on to something else. They weren't sure they could get it any further. But, I always say that, they had this idea, and I don't remember which one, but like something about a truck. And I was like, man, I just don't know. And I know better now, but I was like, I'm not really like a truck song guy. Like, I just don't think I'm the guy to write that idea with. And again, Dan Couch laughs at me and says, no, that never happened. I'm like, I swear that happened. And then they were like, well, we'll just write. We wrote Mary Was a Marrying Kind that day. Yeah. And then they wrote that another day. And I was like, but you know, I mean, in all seriousness, I don't think the song necessarily, I'm not saying it wouldn't have been a hit, but I don't, there's songs have energy and different writers in the room bring different energies. And I'm not sure that song would have been the same song. Now, nowadays, if somebody came in with that idea, I'd be like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Now I know what I know now, you know? But yeah, so that's. Well,
this was also when Kip was brand new.
Yeah.
So.
I'm glad you mentioned that too. Because, you know, again, you know, Kip didn't even, when we wrote those songs, Kip didn't have a label deal. Yeah. And there's another, I'll tell you about another song, that had a hit with Kip, which was thus far my highest charting song, which got to number 14, was a song called She's Mine. And we wrote that song. Thank you. We wrote that song during the same period, like within a month of Mary Was the Marrying Kind. I mean, that song came out I think it came out late in 2019, but it was a hit during 2020 while we were all inside. And you know, I was so thankful for that song because I didn't know that was happening. And I actually had just started my deal at Smack at the time. And that was a bit of an older song for me. At the time, it was probably 10 years old. Yeah. Something like that, you know.
Yeah, I remember Kip playing that. He used to play quite a bit back in the day. And, you know, he was one of the first guys I met when I moved to town, too. We would hang out at Tin Roof all the time. And I think it was probably around 2017, 2018, maybe, that he was doing something with us on Sirius XM, if I remember correctly. And he had been playing that song for a while before that.
Yeah, he always believed in it.
Yeah.
And Kip is amazing for that. Like, and I'm pretty sure that, and there's like a handful of songs that I remember, one in particular that we wrote back in the day that he always says every time I'll see him or talk to him, he'll say that I'm going to put that song out one day. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to say what it is because I know someone will steal the idea.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But like, or maybe I don't want to jinx it. I don't know. But Kip knows what it is. Yeah. And it's like, it's a song that I brought in and it was something that means a lot to me. And I know one day he'll put it out, you know? Yeah. Cause he's like that. He believes in a song, and Kip is one of those artists who's always done what he wanted to do. Yeah. Like, he's always stuck to his guns and like, you know, let, you know, things come to him.
And that's why he has the fans that he has. I mean, they're diehard fans.
Absolutely. He's an incredible artist. And he, like what you said is perfectly true. So yeah. He's got great fans.
I still am holding a grudge to him, and I hope he's listening to this because we did a show one time where he was about to go on stage, and I was like, "Hey, dude, your thing is you always have a hat on backwards. Like, can I give you a listening room hat? Will you wear this as you do this?" And he just looked at me and was like, I love you, bro, but nope. And then walked on stage. I was like, nah, man.
He's not going to do he's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Sennheiser microphones. When we first started this podcast, we were using some older microphones, and Sennheiser came in and sponsored us and gave us some MK4s and 914s. And I mean, I'm telling you, it's made all of the difference in the world. We love these microphones. We use them at the listening room as well. And I just can't say enough great things about them. Go check out Sennheiser.com. If you are into music in any way, their microphones are hands down the best on the planet. Go check them out, Sennheiser.com. And thank you, Sennheiser, for the support and the sponsorship. We love y'all. Man, let's talk about Kelsey Hart a little bit.
He's great. Kelsey is like, I think he's one of the next big artists coming up in this town. And I've written a handful of songs with him. And I just think every time I write with him, I just think he's getting better and better too. But the first time I met him, we wrote a song that's actually his current single that's out right now called Life With You. And it's a really beautiful, straightforward love song that just caught fire. It's one of those like that happens nowadays, that went viral on TikTok and Instagram and all that. And, like we see so much now, it sort of made the business come to him, and I mean, I know that he was going to make it no matter what, because this guy's a really great artist. He's got one of the best voices in town. I mean, he just blew me away the first day. I had never met him before,
How did you guys meet?
A publisher had set up the write.
Okay.
I went in to write with him and this guy that he had written with a bunch and still writes with a bunch named Kyle Schlanger. Great singer-songwriter. And, like I get set up with a lot of young artists, you never know what day's going to bring. Sometimes I'll look at my calendar in the morning. I'm like, okay, who am I writing with today? You know what I mean? It's like, you just never know like who you're going to happen upon that day. And, I'll never forget. I mean, Kelsey had this idea. He was, I believe at the time he was already engaged, but I may have that wrong. But I know he wanted to write this song about the girl that he was with, who is now his wife. And it was a beautiful melody, and we wrote it relatively easily and relatively quickly. And I remember picking up the phone and calling my publisher when it was over with, and saying, thanks for setting me up with that. He's really great. I think it's really cool. And, you write a lot of songs, and like some are the songs that like every writer in town says they wish they'd written. And, sometimes you write a song that you don't know. Like I left there going, this is a beautiful love song and the melodies are killer. And I think if he releases this song, it could be something. But again, I didn't know. We write so many songs, like I didn't know what we had. I knew it was a cool song. I knew I liked it, but I didn't know if the town was going to embrace it or what was going to happen. And I mean, frankly, from what I understand, he didn't know either, because they weren't, I don't think, I could be wrong about this, but I don't think it was on the list of things for them to cut. But then he posted a video of it on TikTok, and it went crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it had already been, like, I know he danced to it at his wedding. It was the first dance. And like, next thing you know, like, it's one of those viral wedding songs, and everybody's like doing videos and dancing to it. I mean, my cousin Rachel got married, back in October, and she and her fiance surprised me by it being their first dance.
Wow.
I'm like, I'm a grown man, and I'm literally like sitting here, like with tears running down my face, like watching my cousin, like, who, doesn't have family here. And my wife and I have been, kind of a source of like stability for them and stuff like that, coming over doing laundry and all that kind of stuff. And, but like to see that happen, I was just like blown away by it. And, like I said, Kelsey is amazing. And I love it when an artist knows what they will and won't say. And he's also one of those kind of artists.
Yeah.
yeah, that song definitely taken on a life of its own, and it's been at country radio now. I want to say almost a year, and it's in the 20s now.
Yeah.
And it still seems to be climbing.
Yep.
So I'll call your radio station.
That's right. That's right.
Keep it rocking for me.
You want to play a little bit of that one?
Sure. If you're on a porch swing, baby, I'm on. If you want a night out, baby, I'm on. If you want a coin flip road trip, anywhere you want to go, baby, just call it. If you're on a dance floor moving, I'm out there. I had to find some laid back and let down your brown hair. You call the shots if I'm ready or not. I don't care. Baby, I love doing life with you. You're everything I want to wake up to. Give you all of my heart, the moon and the stars, till my time here on earth is through. 'Cause I just love, baby, I love doing life with you.
So good, man.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
You've had the opportunity of getting songs cut by some of the biggest names in music.
I've been fortunate. Yeah.
What is the mindset when you go into a room, if you're writing for a specific artist? You know, if it's Tim, Blake, like, do you go in with, knowing that you're writing for that, or is it comes out of?
It's a great question. And I will say many writers do. And we have like pitch sheets often that we look at. We know who's cutting when. And I'm not going to lie. I've never been great at that. Like, I've never had much success, like targeting, like, unless I'm writing with the artist, like I've never had much success that way. I've just kind of got with the big cuts that I've had. I've gotten lucky, and just sort of with the right song at the right time. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, like, you mentioned Tim McGraw. I mean, the Tim McGraw cut that I had within the last year was something that came about. I wrote with Josh Osborne and Laurie McKenna. And, this was during Zoom. This was during COVID. It was on Zoom. And we were actually writing another song, which hasn't been cut, which I think will at some point get cut because it's been on hold for everybody. But we were writing another song. And then I said something about poetry or something like that. I think I said something about like working man's poetry. It was like a line we were throwing out. I said, "Oh, that's working man's poetry." And Laurie was like, "That's really cool." And I said, well, maybe we should write it or something like that. And next thing I know, she's got this, she's sending this start to an idea that called, Poet's Resume that she just like went and thought up after that ride. And like, next thing you know, the three of us got back together and wrote it and sent it to Tim, and he cut it, and it was the title of an EP that he put out not too long ago. But yeah, I mean, so that's how that one came about. And, I had a bunch of songs that, several songs on Kelsey Ballerini's first record that I wrote with her, which is always a good way to have that happen. I wrote a song with this guy, Jason Gant, that I love to write with, and a duo, by the name of Walker County, like back, I'm trying to think, probably 2015 or something like that. They were a young act on Warner Brothers at the time. And, we wrote, a song which I thought was for them. It was a song called Wallflowers and Weeds, which was just about like, being okay with being different and your uniqueness. And the next, we turned it in, and like not too long after that, we got a call one day saying that Blake Shelton was cutting it for a movie project that was like an animated feature. And I remember also thinking, oh my God, Blake Shelton cut the song and like he's going to put it out. And it definitely did put it out, but the movie unfortunately tanked, so it never went anywhere. But like that was such a weird thing because I was actually just in a movie with my wife when I got the call from Jason that song was going to get cut.
Wow.
And they were able to have access to him through the label, and I guess Chris Lacey was probably the one that played it for him over at Warner Brothers at the time. Yeah, I mean, they happen in any number of ways, but like, fortunately for me, it's like, you know, sometimes too, it's like, you know, you're writing with a song with the producer, you know, and, I remember, you know, we got me and Josh and Shane had written, and Ross Copeland, we had written a song, that they were working on something for Jake Owen, and I ended up like cutting it on Jake. And it was a song called Everybody Dies Young, which is still one of my favorite songs that I've ever been a part of, you know, but
yeah. I was going to ask you, I mean, with all the success that you've had, what would you say like your highlight moment is?
Wow, that's a really tough question. My highlight moment. I mean, I always say like the song that I'm currently involved with is usually, but I mean, this is kind of a weird one, but like I actually released a song myself as an artist that went viral, which is sort of like something I never expected to happen.
Yeah.
You know, I released a song that I wrote with a couple friends of mine, a guy by the name of Mike Shimshak and a guy named Greg Becker. And we wrote this song, actually, it was about my friend Mike had gone through a divorce, and he was like, you know, it had been 10 years before he'd gone through the divorce, but he was like, you know, over with it and like past it and everything. But like, he was like, I really want to write a song about it. And I think you guys, and he asked me and Greg if we'd come help him write this song. And we wrote this song called 162, which was about a guy who goes to pawn his wedding ring and gets $162 for it. And it was a true story. The only thing that wasn't true was that he got $160 for it, but it didn't rhyme as good. But we wrote this song and we didn't know what we had, you know. Now the song hasn't been cut, but I released it myself because I was just like, I put this song out on TikTok, and next thing you know, it was blowing up and people were like, you know, talking about it and sharing it and all this stuff. And you've made such a difference in my life. And it's really made me think, gosh, I need to put more music out of my own, because I have not really been someone who's really done that. And, you know, that's a tough question, like the highlight. I think I say that because it's a song that like, that I really, you know, resonated with me, and that, you know, that as a, you know, me as the artist, you know, and so, but yeah, I mean, that's what I'd have to say.
Yeah.
Cause how do you pick like, you know, how do you pick something like that?
Yeah. I don't ask that question a lot, but it's always that similar, answer when I do. Like, you know, it's like asking somebody to pick their favorite child, you know, so
I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, man, I know you've got a right to get to today. So I feel like we could sit here and talk for a couple more hours. There's so much that I want to dive in, but maybe we can have you back on sometime.
I would love that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a blast doing this, you know, just another shout out to Smack, you know, for doing this run with us, and, you know, looking forward to the big listening room show with Smack. And,
I love Smack. This place has been so good to me, like such great writers and great people. Everybody that believes in me here. It's such a honor to be able to write here. Yeah. I love it so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of great places in town, and this is, you know, I know so many of the guys that are a part of this family, and of course Shane and Josh, and you know, all that it's just,
Shane's the best.
Yeah. True fans. Yeah, man.
Thank you so much.
Well, I always end on this question. So if you can go back to 8-year-old you in Atlanta, everything that you've done now, what advice would you give yourself today?
I would say, give yourself some grace and chase your dreams as soon as you have them. Don't put them on hold. Don't wait, because if you have them for a reason. Go ahead and go after them.
Love that.
You deserve to have them.
Yeah, man. Well, keep chasing them. We love the songs that you're putting out.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. You've been listening to Scott Stepakoff, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.